How much do you think undocumented immigrants pay into the tax system every year?
Zero.
Nothing.
Probably nothing.
Undocumented, I would guess zero. Why would they pay any?
They pay it into the system.
Okay.
So through ITN number.
Is undocumented immigrants?
Undocumented immigrants. They pay Medicare, they pay Social Security. They don't get Social Security.
Right, but they pay into it.
They pay into
I
it.
wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that.
What policies in particular are you most excited to see?
Yeah, I'm ready to see the get back, stay in Mexico policy. Get the illegal immigrants out of here.
Immigration. Well, obviously, we want to see the border closed.
I'm looking forward to the mass deportation.
Yeah, the border. I like the border policy.
I think we need to close the borders immediately.
Have you had personal experience with the immigration issues there?
No, not really. But we hear about it all the time.
Not particularly.
I haven't seen it personally, but I know it's active.
No, not necessarily.
How's it affected your community?
They're getting a lot of aid.
We're pretty protected from most of that. We mostly have to worry about the meth labs and stuff.
So, not necessarily in our community.
How have you been personally affected by the migrant crisis?
A couple times a week we have trucks coming through our neighborhood and they ring the doorbell, soliciting. Our neighborhood is not supposed to have solicitors, but they ring the doorbell and then, you see the big pickup truck with like 8 men in it.
What are they soliciting for?
I don't know, sometimes they have a lawnmower, sometimes they don't, so they want to work. Yeah.
Oh. People, they're coming here and they're taking all of our jobs.
Well, and they don't want to work. A lot of them don't want to work.
They're taking our jobs and they don't want to work.
Exactly.
So will you trust the election results if Donald Trump wins?
If he wins, yeah.
Will you trust the election results if Kamala Harris wins?
No, I wouldn't. No.
Donald Trump said that he would urge Vladimir Putin to invade NATO countries that weren't paying their, what he said, fair share. How did that make you feel?
He's sarcastic. Heavily sarcastic on a lot of things.
What's one of the biggest issues for you right now as a voter?
Border security. The border. Probably the border.
Closing the border.
Illegal immigration.
The migrant crisis, how has it affected you personally?
Nothing.
It hasn't.
I don't think I've been personally affected yet. They haven't overwhelmed my little small town. They haven't affected my work yet or anything like that. However, it's affected me thinking that it's possible there could be terrorists coming through there.
Does anyone care about the migrant crisis in this country? Has anyone personally been affected by it?
We all are personally affected by it.
Oh, good. Do you have a good story about it? We're trying to get one person to tell us their personal.
I don't have a direct story, but gotta find someone with a direct story.
I know.
What are you looking for?
We're looking for someone with a personal story about the migrant crisis or the border.
Not a personal story.
Personal? Anyone? No? No one.
Hey, I'll tell you something. I'm from Canada. It took me a half hour to cross the border legally.
You guys know this guy?
No. I can show you my driver's
Okay,
license.
we should vet him.
There's my health card. Coming across legally takes you forever. They grill you.
But they grill you? Like it's really intense?
Yeah. They grill you. Want to know what you know? Open the trunk, open the windows. Let's see what's in the car. I'm just a middle-class Canadian, and they're giving me crap.
Have you been personally affected by the migrant crisis?
Not so far.
And this is the number one issue you have as a voter.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
MAGA voters shocked when confronted with facts about immigration. Now, what happens when political slogans collide with actual facts? What happens when years of talking points are suddenly challenged by economic data, labor statistics, and the reality millions of Americans see every single day? Welcome back to Global Views with Josh. If you're new here, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and join our growing community where we examine today's biggest stories through facts, context, and honest discussions. Now, today's conversation is about immigration, a topic that has become one of the most emotionally charged issues in American politics. But beyond the headlines and the campaign speeches lies a more complicated reality that deserves a closer look. Let's get into it.
I'm glad ICE is cracking down on illegal immigrants. Why? Because they're criminals. They got here by breaking the law, and then they keep committing crimes while they're here. They make all Americans less safe. Well, actually, that's just not true at all. Researchers have looked closely at this and found that undocumented immigrants have lower incarceration rates and lower criminal conviction rates than native-born Americans. So this idea that undocumented immigrants are just out there committing crimes at a higher rate is just not true. Of course, it does happen occasionally, but those cases get way overblown by right-wing media, and they don't represent a real trend. Even if you're right about that, they're still taking our jobs, dude. Why do you think no one's getting paid enough? Because some immigrant from Mexico is coming in and doing the job for less money. That's why immigrants are bad for working-class Americans. I get why you might think that, but you're wrong about that too. This has been researched a lot, and it turns out undocumented immigrants have had a positive effect on wages in the US, or possibly no effect at all, because they end up taking jobs that most US citizens don't want to do, like planting crops in the hot sun or manual labor in a slaughterhouse, which means that they put up with a lot of the toughest jobs so that American workers don't have to. And honestly, if you're worried about the working class, you should stand in solidarity with immigrants right now, because they put up with a lot of abuse from employers, like getting wages withheld or getting paid below minimum wage, because they're undocumented, which means they have less ability to fight for their own rights. That's what I'm saying. They take low wages, and that brings wages down for the rest of us. Bro, you're blaming the wrong people here. Corporations are always going to try to pay as little as they can for our labor, which means we need to band together and push for higher wages, not blame the immigrants who are getting abused by the system. This infighting in the working class is exactly what our billionaire overlords want, because it prevents us from organizing to create a mass labor movement. Okay, but even if that's true, they're still freeloading on our government. They use our schools and our healthcare and benefits without paying any taxes. That's not right. You're wrong again. Undocumented immigrants pay almost $100 billion per year in taxes, but because they're undocumented, they don't even get to sign up for the social programs that they help fund. That means they have a positive overall contribution to public finances. See, man, this is the problem with the MAGA narrative about immigrants. It's a bunch of edgy talking points that sound true, but when you actually put them all together and look at the facts, the story doesn't make any damn sense. And honestly, all that economic evidence I just shared isn't even the most important thing, because before anything else, these people are humans. They're mothers, fathers, sons, and daughters, people who came here for a better life. And we're watching heavily armed government troopers wearing masks, ripping these people out of their families' arms and throwing them into the back of unmarked vans to be brought to who knows where. If that doesn't make you worried about state violence and authoritarianism, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, I guess that part's not great. But
holy shit, get ready for this one. Because if you've ever heard somebody say immigrants are a drain on the system, or they're taking resources that should go toward Americans, and you knew they were full of shit, but you didn't have the facts to refute, I have great news, because after watching this video, not only will you know how to respond, but you'll have a counterpunch too, and they'll never see it coming. So first, a brand new study was just released from the Cato Institute. If you've never heard of them, it's a libertarian think tank, and they're typically cited by the Reagan-type Republicans when they want to cut spending. This specific study sought to evaluate the impact of immigrants on government spending. To do this, they looked at data from 1994 to 2023. 94 was the first year they started collecting it. So this data spans 30 years, and it does include undocumented immigrants. Now, there are way too many findings in the study to capture them all in one video. I'm going to give you the high-level summary. First and most important takeaway is that the existence of immigrants reduced the deficit every single year over those 30 years. A 30-year streak of paying more in taxes than they cost the government at the local, state, and federal level combined. This is because while immigrants are paid lower wages on average, they work at much higher rates. Over this time period, immigrants only made up about 14% of the U.S. population, but they made up over 18% of the workforce. Meanwhile, because immigrants are 25 years old when they arrive on average, it costs us next to nothing in terms of public education. Then because they're far less likely to work government jobs, they're less likely to be eligible for a public pension. And while immigrants in the United States are more likely to be living in poverty, they are no more likely than a U.S. citizen to need government support. And that includes food stamps, Medicaid, tax credits, and unemployment insurance. And despite Trump's lies, they're also half as likely as a U.S.-born citizen to have a felony or serve time in prison. So they're saving us money there too. You add this all together, it turns out over that 30-year period, immigrants contributed 14% of tax revenue and only accounted for 7% of government spending, contributing a net positive impact of $14.5 trillion to the U.S. economy, with $6.3 trillion of that positive impact from non-citizens alone. That $14.5 trillion is so massive that without immigrants, in 2023, our national debt would have been double what it was. These numbers are so insane, I was required to ask a follow-up question. If immigrants are so good for our economy, are they better than Republicans? You won't believe what I found. Because in that exact same 30-year period, Republican presidents were in charge of 12. And in those fiscal years, Republican presidents accounted for $11.2 trillion of new debt, running annual deficits almost double on average the Democratic presidents in that same 30-year period, by the way. And with virtually all of that debt spending going to Wall Street, tax cuts for the wealthy, military spending, and forgivable loans to business owners through 2020 and 2021, we can safely confirm that next to none of that debt went to those same immigrants who were driving a positive impact. Altogether proving that not only do immigrants have a net positive impact on the economy, they're more important to our economy than Republicans.
Thanks so much for telling me to look into that. I actually did, and guess what? I had no idea immigrants added billions to our economy. The National Academy of Sciences found that immigration has little to no impact on citizen wages. And in some cases, it even raises them. I had no idea that immigrants were less likely to use healthcare than US citizens. In fact, immigration households contribute $58 billion more into Medicare than they take out. I had no idea that the housing crisis isn't about immigrants at all. It's about corporate investors. In some cities, investors bought up 1 in 4 homes, which the Urban Institute is saying is driving up rent way more than migration. And since I was having such a great time, I learned even more about immigration. Did you know? Immigrants pay about $492 billion in taxes each year. Did you know? Nearly 45% of Fortune 500 companies were founded by immigrants or their kids. Did you know? Immigrants make up 28% of doctors in the US, literally keeping the healthcare system alive. So thank you for pushing me to look a little deeper, because now I know the real problem isn't immigrants, it's racism.
Okay, hey, what's your question?
So I know I'm not supposed to notice these things or ask these questions, but it needs to be noticed and the questions need to be asked.
A spicy question. All right, what do you got?
So I've lived in a nice suburb of Columbus for about 5 years now.
A nice suburb of Columbus. I hope that's not a euphemism for a predominantly white suburb of Columbus.
And since moving in, slowly but surely, all of my neighbors have become foreigners.
I don't like where this is going.
Nobody speaks English. All of them look at me like I'm the odd man out, like what's this white girl doing here?
Okay, so now we're equating white with nice and white with American. And not sure if you heard, but America doesn't actually have a national language. So whether they speak English or not, it should be irrelevant.
If I go to the pool, it's almost all Spanish speaking or Middle Eastern speaking.
Okay, I'm no linguist, but I don't know what Middle Eastern speaking is.
Like, I am one of the only English speaking Americans in my complex.
There you go again with that only English speaking American, as if you can't be American unless you speak English.
That doesn't seem right to me. How is this okay?
What doesn't seem right to you? That America has more than white people who speak English? Seems kind of racist.
I, an American, am being conquered basically in my own home.
Wait, you said conquered. So they're like coming into your home, taking land that isn't theirs and forcing you out? Is that what's happening here?
So I'm not even talking about race. I'm not talking about race.
Oh, thank God you're not talking about race, because I could have swore when you said that you're white and you speak English and there are Spanish and Middle Eastern speaking people there, you're pretty much making it about race, but I'm glad to know you're not making it about race.
When I see a fellow black person...
But fellow black person? Does she realize she's not black?
I'm like, yes, you're an American, like, thank you for being here with me side by side, because it has nothing to do with race.
Nothing to do with race? How do you think black people arrived in the United States and why?
I'm speaking about fellow Americans being pushed out of their homes and being conquered.
There's that conquered word again. I don't think that word means what you think it means.
By people who aren't from here, people who don't speak our language.
You know, you're in Columbus, Ohio, and speaking of being conquered by people who don't speak their language, the Native Americans who were indigenous to the Ohio region have all been pushed out by people who didn't speak their language. I wonder who did that.
This doesn't seem like a strength for us. This diversity thing doesn't seem like it's going good.
So it's not about race, but apparently diversity is not going well, so it is about race, right?
Am I being irrational? Am I being irrational?
Yeah, you're being pretty irrational, although I would rephrase irrational to racist.
I feel uncomfortable in the fact that I'm like the only one of my neighbors that speaks English and actually has an ancestry here in America.
Yeah, you're wrong, but also now we know why Native Americans who are indigenous to that land are no longer there. It seems that they were conquered by someone's ancestors.
I think that this is perfectly natural to be upset that my home is being conquered by foreigners.
There's that word conquered again. I really don't think that word means what you think it means.
Where are my fellow Americans?
We're all right here, and we're not all white, and we speak hundreds, if not thousands, of different languages. And can we just appreciate the irony of this woman objecting to Middle Eastern people while having Christian in her bio, and Jesus being literally Middle Eastern? Like, imagine being so racist that you would call the cops on the person you worship if he showed up at your pool. What? I just find it hilarious that these MAGA Republicans who try to present themselves as objective and fair-minded and say, I don't see color, suddenly see color real well when that color isn't their own complexion for protection.
The biggest myth in American politics is that undocumented immigrants cost this country money, that they drain this country of money. Well, it's absolutely not true. They pay billions in taxes every year, and they don't even get to use those benefits. They're literally subsidizing us. Over the last 30 years, undocumented immigrants have created a $14.5 trillion surplus, and that's coming from the Cato Institute, which is a libertarian organization, i.e. right-wing. And what that means is that immigrants are paying far more into our system than they are able to take out of the tax system. Undocumented immigrants, the group that we are led to believe are freeloaders, in 2022 alone, they paid $97 billion into the U.S. tax system. Over $25 billion just in Social Security tax alone. Because if you hire somebody who is undocumented, you still have to pay payroll taxes. The employer still has to pay payroll taxes. And that's not counting the billions they pay into Medicare, the billions they pay in state and income tax, the billions that they pay in sales tax every time they go and buy something in a U.S. store, which is the most visible. You know, most people can see, oh yeah, that does make sense. But a lot of people don't realize that they're also paying into the Social Security system, that our companies are paying in on their behalf. And they can't access any of those benefits. They're not eligible to get Medicare or Medicaid or Social Security. They're not eligible for any of that. They're paying in $97 billion a year that supplements Americans. And we need that money for our Social Security because we know every year they say we're about to run out of money. We need that money. You need to have a whole base of people paying into that system. Because we know anybody making over $197,000 or making over $187,000 doesn't have to pay into it. Now let's talk about what it costs us.
For years, many MAGA supporters have been told that undocumented immigrants are simply a drain on America, that they don't contribute, don't pay taxes, and only take from the system. But economists, government reports, and independent research paint a much more nuanced picture. If you call it that, millions of undocumented immigrants work in agriculture, construction, hospitality, food processing, elder care, landscaping, and many other industries that help keep the American economy moving. Now, these are often difficult jobs that employers struggle to fill. Many also pay taxes. Yes, they do. Contrary to a common misconception, undocumented workers often contribute through payroll deductions, sales taxes, property taxes paid directly or through rent, and in some cases, income taxes using individual taxpayers' identification numbers. Now, while the exact amount varies by study, research has estimated that undocumented immigrants collectively contribute billions of dollars annually in federal, state, and local taxes. That doesn't mean there aren't real debates about immigration, policy, or border security. Those are legitimate issues that deserves thoughtful discussion. But facts matter. It's possible to support stronger border enforcement while also recognizing the economic contributions many immigrants make. Those ideas are not mutually exclusive. Now, America has always depended on workers willing to take on demanding jobs that support entire industries. Now, think about the food on groceries, store shelves, the homes being built. Think about the hotels operating around the clock, the restaurants serving millions of people every day. Behind much of that work are immigrants, documented and undocumented, whose labor helps sustain sectors of the United States economy. Now, that's not political rhetoric. That's economic reality acknowledged by many businesses and researchers. What often gets lost in heated political debates is the human side of immigration. Many immigrants come seeking opportunities, safety, and a chance to build a better future for their family. They work long hours, start businesses, raise children, and become part of the community where they live. Throughout American history, wave after wave of immigrants has, of course, helped shape the nation's economy, culture, and innovation. Now, today's immigrants continue that tradition in countless ways. When discussions reduce millions of people to stereotypes, it becomes easier to ignore their individual stories and contributions. Now, at the same time, immigration policy is a legitimate area for disagreement. People can have different views on border security, legal immigration pathways, asylum, and enforcement. Healthy democracies depend on those debates, right? But productive conversations become much harder when misinformation replaces evidence. Before accepting any claim, whether it comes from politicians, commentators, or social media, it's worth asking a simple question: what do the facts actually say? Political messaging can be powerful, fear can be persuasive, but facts have a way of challenging assumptions. The United States is strongest when it can have honest conversations based on evidence rather than slogans. Now, whether someone identifies as conservative, liberal, independent, or somewhere in between, the goal should be finding solutions that strengthen the country while respecting both the rule of law and dignity of people. Now, that's not weakness, that's a responsible leadership. Now, the immigration debate isn't going nowhere anytime soon, but perhaps the biggest question is whether Americans are willing to let facts shape their opinions instead of simply repeating political narratives. I'd love to hear your perspective on this. Do you believe immigration is discussed honestly in American politics? Can America have a secure border while also recognizing the economic contributions immigrants make? What facts do you think deserves more attention in this conversation? Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. If you enjoyed this discussion, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss future videos from Global Views with Josh. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. As always, credits belongs to original creators. Cheers.